Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Avini Vibes. What a special place to be tonight. I'm so grateful to be here tonight, May 16th, Thursday night, 2024. Boy, time flies, doesn't it? I mean, it's May already. I went outside this morning and it was really cool because here in New York, right out of the northern part of northern New Jersey, right in New York. My tulips were starting to bloom. So I know spring is trying to surface, not always not always as warm as we'd like it to be the last few days, but I know spring's trying. So we're springing forward here at Avini Vibes. That's what it's about. We're here to educate, we're here to share. We're not
Oh,
here to give medical claims. So we won't do that. No medical claim, and to share our stories and to grow this family. We're so blessed tonight because we have people from all over. We have people all the way from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast. And I see Dr. Chip's in the house. So Chip, thank you always for being here. And I have to always thank Carol Witt for helping so much with the technical part of this. Couldn't do it without her. And last week we had an opportunity I jumped on a plane and I was right there in Florida. We did Avini Vibes in Carol's living room, and we had our very own, for those of you who don't know, or you do know, Doug Dickey. He was right there in the living room as well. And one thing about Doug, he not only shared the presentation that many of you were on with us, he stuck around. I think he stayed till midnight and he
midnight.
just kept teaching and sharing and learning and all the stories that you get to hear. And most importantly for me, all the miracles. And that's what we're here tonight to hear from somebody that I feel
Oh,
so blessed to get to know. But at the conference, at the summit, I had an opportunity to meet her in person. So I saw her from a distance. I walked right up to her and like we hugged, and I'm like, oh, I feel like I know you, you know? So it's like having a distant sister, like Carol is to me. So thank you so much, Tony Marie Abeyta. And she is with us tonight. You know, I read always ask our guests to send us a story or a testimonial or their life. Boy, it's not easy when someone asks you to do that, right? And I read it, and boy, you have such a diverse background, a beautiful spirit for sure, which our guests and the people that know you already know about you because you're willing to share your heart. That's what I've learned about you in the time that I've gotten to know you. Share your heart and you share these amazing products. And you've had a long journey along this way to your professional walk in network marketing in this type of business. So why don't you just come on and share a little bit with us all the way from Colorado? I'm so proud of that. Tony Marie Abeyta, welcome, Tony. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It cut out, and I'm not sure what I'm saying thank you for, but thank you. Your voice
Oh,
cut
I
out.
cut
Thank you.
out. I'm just sharing. I want you to be able to share your story and what has happened with you, how you got involved with Avini, why you saw Avini as such a special opportunity to help, and your walk has it's been through healing people.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for inviting me on, and I feel like you do. It was wonderful. I've admired you. I've been so just excited to be a part of any part of Avini Vibes and your tribe. Like I said, it's almost like seeing, you know how we have our friends across the pond? Well, we're just on the other side of the continental divide, it feels like. So I'm so grateful to be embraced. Thank you so, so much. And hello, everyone. Yes, it's just so great, and I'm so glad that you had Doug Dickey there on the East Coast. And for those of you, if you'll raise your hands and say, did you get to go see him? Have you met him? I see Ed waving his hands. Right, Bill? That's so awesome. Yes. Oh, Chip. Chip's like, yeah.
yeah.
But I have Doug is sprinkled in my life a couple of times, and it was so great that he really brought Avini's full picture to us here in Grand Junction. But because I had a question mark, and I don't know where you'd like me to start, Christine, but How far back? How far
Well,
back in your
why
life?
don't you share a little bit about, you've been involved professionally as a massage therapist. You've been in this health field as a professional acupuncturist. You're very knowledgeable in Chinese medicine. You were an apprentice for 7 years. You're a nutritional trainer. So you have a long
There,
background of health and wealth and share part of like you've been in different companies before. You've crossed paths with our very own Dave Johnson before.
yes.
But what was your journey with Avini and who brought it to you and what was the light bulb maybe that went off or your own personal experience even with the products?
Thank you. Thank you. That helps bring it closer. Sometimes we don't know how, our God helps us bring things together. And when you look at your life and you look at the steps that you've taken in your life, all things come to a point where your purpose is revealed. And I couldn't feel more in alignment with that purpose than here in Avini. And led to it ironically with yes, and I do want to give some dedication to my parents who by their efforts introduced me to network marketing over 30 years ago, and my mother in particular, that would be Frances. She was a very strong person and a very loving person, but something that she wanted me to have in my heart, which was not in a cruel way, but in a very empowering way, which was to bestow upon me the idea that never be beholden to no one, to anyone, to have your freedom, to embrace your freedom. And if there's any way to create that and live life on your own terms, network marketing would be that. Now, she was an office manager for two radiologists, and she was very well loved but still, when my father got ill, it was through means of network marketing, which is how I met Dave Johnson first, right? He had Japanese technology that my mother and I were actually pursuing to try and help my father. And at that time you meet these quality individuals, and I was younger. I really did not embrace the whole process as my parents did, but I watched their association. I watched the people that they were involved with, and these people were integral, right? They didn't lie to each other. And we had good foundations with 5 pillars, and you saw what mattered. These relationships were solid. Well, fast forward as it helped my dad, and it helped my dad come out of being paralyzed. He had a reaction to an anesthesia. Many of the methods of alternative wellness helped him. So it went natural with my natural interest in wellness, right? Many different avenues of wellness. And I only wanted to work in the network marketing world. I only wanted to work with things that were exclusive, that were not Me Too's, that you couldn't find on any shelves. So fast forward, I'll skip to the part that brought us here. In 2017, I drove a cute little sports car that had a gasoline leak, and I didn't care. I loved the sports car. It was adorable, but it leaked gasoline straight into the cab. It had a rotary engine, and the fuel injection went straight under the back seat. So I inhaled that because I love that car. For 4 years, driving between Sacramento and San Francisco daily, daily. And if any of you are looking at your computer screens and there is a gray pallor to behind our Zoom meeting, that was the color of my skin. I was gray. The oxygen was so deprived for the carbon that I had inhaled, I could not put a sentence together. I could not link a sentence of words together without stammering and searching for words. My memory was shot. I knew I was in trouble, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I knew that traditional medicine did not have an answer for me. And the methods that I had really were not working. And I had several, but they were not the answer. fast forward, my father called me home from Colorado, or excuse me, from California to Colorado, and I came home to Colorado where I was diagnosed officially. I was termed, I had malignant inflammation.
Oh,
All right. And they wouldn't nail it down. I refused to get an official diagnosis from a medical doctor, but there were enough tests to say I was in trouble. And there really wasn't a way for that to unwind. Meanwhile, I'm still pursuing my network marketing careers in other companies. Things are moving just fine, but it didn't feel genuine. Where I was didn't feel like home. It felt like I'm going through the motions, but wonderfully, the family stayed together. Well, in September of 2022, I received a phone call from a very excited friend of mine from another company, and Sharon Buller. If you know Sharon Buller, she is a registered nurse, and she excitedly said, Tony, you have to come. You have to come to this convention in October. I need you to be my roommate. I said, Sharon, don't bother me. I'm busy. I'm too busy. I'm building another company. We're going all the way to Diamond. Don't bother me. But you know what? Just to shut her up, I would sign up anyway.
Did you really?
I'm not kidding. And I don't mean it in that harsh way. I just said, look, if you'll join me, I'll join you and we'll just call it even. But, just let's get on with it. So I did. I ordered a really basic package, but it had a little bit of everything, the $2.99 pack, right? And funny thing is, it's the major product of Cell Defender actually sat on my kitchen shelf for 2 months. What I was fascinated with was the fiber. I loved our Avini Plus fiber, loved it, just fell in love with it. So by the beginning of December, I'm starting to take a closer look at what is this company about? What is this fiber about? It's really making a difference. I'm noticing a difference. And when I start to investigate who Avini is about, I'm like, Doug Dickey, Doug Dickey. My goodness, it's Doug Dickey. I knew him 10 years ago with another company. We used to set up chairs together in other venues for another major speaker. How is it that he and I, who used to compare notes, how does he own this company? How is he one of the owners? So I'm so sly. I get on the phone, I call him on Messenger, and I pretend like it's no big deal, right? Doug, what's been going on for you for the last 10 years, right? I don't let on that I know he's the vice president of sales. I don't let on. And I let him tell me what's happening. And I said, I'm loving this product. Tell me what it's about. And I said, by the way, I don't live in California anymore. I live in Colorado. And he says, well, I don't live in Washington anymore. I live in Utah. And I said, great, it's 3 hours away. And he said, I'll hop on my motorcycle and come see you. So that was December of 2022.
mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you, he did what he did to you all in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He sat for 5 hours with another registered nurse friend of mine, Kathy Rossman, and another gentleman who grows peaches out here in Colorado. He mesmerized us with the science of Avini and his story of what it had done for him. Now, remember, I'm still quite full of the gasoline particles that I had inhaled before. Remember, it isn't making sense yet that what he's presenting is my answer. It makes no sense to me yet. It's not clicking yet. But I had some tests run right before I started the products. So we'll just put that aside. So that evening, the restaurant demanded that we leave because they were vacuuming around our table. We were there until 11:30. And I invited him for breakfast the next morning, where he literally did this. And I know Doug is always laughing when I say he threw the one-page compensation plan in front of me because he knew I love network marketing. And he says, here's our compensation plan. Well, I was floored because I read it left to right. And the biggest piece, everyone, that mattered to me was I said, "Are you kidding me?" And I cussed. I said, "Holy S," right? I just, I said, "Are you kidding me? If this is true, then we're going to tear this up. We're going to tear this up because what I knew from other companies and other binary situations is that while those of us who try very, very hard and will work diligently to make it happen no matter what, there were so many casualties of people along the way that could not duplicate that same situation, right? They didn't have the years of experience, they didn't have the years of accumulating their associations yet. And so they would be placed in positions that none of us would ever want to be in terms of where they'd fall in the binary, right? So what I saw was an equal opportunity for other people to achieve the same greatness because it was a level playing field. He immediately got on the phone and put Neil Roth on the phone. I heard Neil comment. I had to tell him, I said, "What I see from your compensation plan is this is an incredible opportunity and we're going to do this. Stand back." And he says, "Well, we welcome you." And at that time, there were about 3,000 distributors in January of 2023, just over 3,000.
Tony, let me just say for our guests, yes, they don't know who Neil Roth is.
What's that?
I said some of our guests don't know who Neil Roth is, so I
Oh,
said Neil Roth is
okay.
our CEO.
All right. Yes, thank you, Christine. Yes, and I will help me remember that I'm telling a story to people who may not know. So our vice president of sales put me on the phone directly at the restaurant with our CEO, Neil Roth. And I was so impressed. He was so real. He was very genuine. Loved his accent, right? East Coast, New Yorker, right? And was just excited that he heard in my voice that I got how what an incredible opportunity this was. And right away, I had Dave Johnson's assistant. And I knew Dave Johnson, also a veteran in the industry from the previous 20 years ago, who embraced the fact that while he had hoped that I would be on his recruiting list, he found out that I was in his organization anyways, and was really, really wonderful about helping reach out to and help me with three-way calls and bring in. So remember, I was currently building another business and we were doing very well. But here's what I had to say. I had to go to each one of them and tell them to halt the horses, stop what they're doing, turn off whatever their orders were, because number one, it it wasn't the direction I wanted to go. And if they would trust me one more time, just one more time, I would help them go where they had intended to go, and it would actually repay them financially, but more than that, with what Doug had explained these products do, we had something that was not only going to make somebody beautiful, that's what we were going before, we wanted to change lives to save lives, which was always the original intention, always the original intention. And they did. And those that came are still here. And I'm so proud of every one of them for having the faith and the trust, because Avini is the real deal. And if you're listening for the first time, please, please don't let go because I say something that you might not understand. Make sure you dig in and learn more, find out everything you can from who's invited you tonight. It's been an incredible journey.
Tony, that's really good advice because you are seasoned and you said, it has that level. That's what I saw too. I've been in other companies. I saw the level playing field and the opportunity. I was just sharing with Kyle Helms today, a conversation I had with someone. I said, this is such a rare opportunity. It was so rare that people that are aren't in the business don't, um, small group. Look at this, small group. And at one time you will see there will be 310 people on this call opposed to 31. I think my sound might be going in and out. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that it
It is.
is?
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I apologize for that. Chip, why don't you jump in? Because maybe your sound is better than mine. I apologize that my sound's not working properly.
Well, I don't know if I ought to jump in because it sounded kind of like a single girl call. Tony said more about how this all happened than I ever heard before.
Mm.
And so that was kind of interesting. I didn't know as much about your dad and your mom and you know the self-sufficiency statement and really how you were running before. The first thing I heard was that Doug Dickey was going to Colorado to Grand Junction and it was going to happen on Tuesday. And this was like Monday. And I and then I get a call from Tony and a couple days later and I said, "Oh, you're the one." And so that was causing, you know, all this stir and that's kind of if you can start like that, I call it um well, I call it racing the product to the mailbox. And probably people were joining her before her products got to her because she saw something and she knew what she saw. You know, that race to the mailbox, if you can be that excited that quick, is a pretty special thing. And that, you know, that's what Mom Frances said about self-sufficiency, that driving thing to want to have your own deal, to be on your own, not to be dependent on somebody else. And you know, that was kind of the beginning. I thought, okay, this is advice to a young daughter. You know, always have your own thing to fall back on, right? Is what I heard there. And so then I started hearing this more through the call. I don't know if I ought to keep going, but then she goes looking and she runs into, you know, first of all, Doug was extremely generous with his time and his information, obviously loves this and feels like it's one of the most important things that's come to humankind and wants to be, you know, super available to share it. I mean, he's young, he's hungry, he's running. I'm not running quite like that anymore, but I know what that experience is like. And it's neat to see it, and it's neat to see it in some of you as well. And then she you know checks in on Dave Johnson. Well, if you were going to have, you know, one person to help coach you in network marketing or to make a decision that happened to agree with yours, that was in a position to decide about the nature of an opportunity and the nature of a product line, certainly one of the ultimate people in my life. To have, you know, Dave Johnson be, I mean, that's pretty good confirmation, right? Wonderful guy, has lived this way for a long time. Very gentle. You know, he looks like a dad on vacation most of the time. Typically, it's going to be a crumpled T-shirt and shorts, and then he'll say something like, "When you got 11 kids, it costs a lot just to be poor," you know, that kind of stuff. And you know, he'll just kind of shuffle around and ho hum you right into, "Oh, by the way, this will develop you into a better person, and you can do this instead of other kinds of work." And you start getting the feel for what he's doing. You think, I think I'd like to do what he's doing. And you know, that moment that we really want to provide to you tonight is that moment when you say, "Oh, that's me. I can do that." You know, and you just heard Tony describe it for herself, and I see several of you nodding up and down. You felt that moment when you say, "That's me." That Tony said it aligns with who I am.
Mhm.
Pretty good deal. And I guess Wankel engines and Mazdas. I don't know if you knew, but Doug Griffith is an Emerald, my nephew, and he's a Wankel specialist. He was crazy about those engines too, but I'm sorry yours, you know, hurt you. But I guess I'm glad we got you back, and so that's pretty cool. That diagnosis you talked about, malignant inflammation. Now, I've heard about malignant this and malignant that, and usually it's about 35 words and then a bunch of abbreviations. I don't know, sure that I ever heard those two words together, malignant information, but it sounds bad.
It,
Sounds miserable.
it
Sounds
was.
like it sounds like big trouble. Is what I said. Okay, malignant. That must be
Yeah.
big trouble. Sharon Buller, the convention, went to the convention. You know, I see several faces that I got to see for the first time. And when you go to be with the people that are doing it, and, you know, Doug's pretty cool, but then you had Neil in person, Rick in person, and each other. You know, I'm sure the same thing happened at Carol's house last week when you actually get to look each other in the eye and say, oh, this is attracting very interesting, smart people. Then you begin to get positively suspicious. You think, well, maybe I'm interested in smart too because I'm hanging out with them. You know, it's kind of a neat. It's not like you have to hoodwink somebody that isn't bright to do this. It comes from smart, and it attracts smart people. And you know, it really is obvious when you get into the crowd that that's the deal. Oh my gosh. Yeah, all right. So here goes the single girl thing again. Here's you know, Sharon Buller talking to Tony, and I'm not sure she said it exactly like this, but it sounded kind of like, you show me yours and I'll show you mine. And then they wound up in gestation, which was the fiber being used. That was the development of the child in Tony's mind that turned into this thing that says, well, they've really got, I mean, if they're plain and simple fiber is a big deal, if it's that big a deal, what the heck is the rest of it like? You know, they might, who knows what else they got. And then she played hard to get because when she called who was it? Well, you called Dave and you didn't tell Dave what was up. Was it Dave or was it Neil? Who did you call that you didn't tell him who you were and what you knew?
I think I
That
got
part of the story.
Dave. It was Dave,
Okay.
and I
It was
checked in
Doug.
with Dave. Oh no, it
Yes.
was Doug. It was
Doug.
Doug. I was, yeah, because we knew each other 10 years ago, and he wasn't president or vice president of anything. In fact, he had a distributor rank that let's just put it, well, I don't want to say he wanted my rank. Let's put it that way. So we were setting up chairs for another diamond speaker together, and that's how we knew each other 10 years ago. And by the way, the reason we were in that company was he was looking for an answer for what he was to solve with Cell Defender. He was looking for it in that company, and it wasn't there, nor was it my answer either.
Well, you know, people will tell you I've looked at everything, I've tried everything. And I always say, this isn't the time to quit checking. If something's ever going to solve the problem, you deserve it because you have looked at everything. This isn't the time to say, nope, that last one, that was the last one. This is the one that finally answers the question. And I thought the cool thing at the end, and I thought the words were interchangeable, save lives to change lives to save lives. That, you know, that was kind of what she was looking for and found. And so that's my notes on listening to Tony. And I did get, you know, I've been around Tony quite a bit. We've done quite a bit together. I'm going to her place with Marcy next week to do some things live and in person. But I feel like I'm so glad that I was here tonight because I feel like I know her better than I did a little bit ago. So thank you for arranging it, you know, everybody on Avini Vibes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chip. I do think that my voice might be still unstable, right, Carol? I'm going in and out, or I'm okay?
No, I'm hearing you now.
All right, Tony, I want to ask you a question. Someone asked me on my telephone. They said, "Okay, Tony, what if I'm not great about talking with people? What if I can't be you, Tony? How do I share? Like, are there other tools that they can use that Avini provides? Because they're a little bit shy right now. Their belief bucket isn't quite full. So what kind of recommendation would you give them?"
Wow. If the belief bucket isn't there, then who brought you to Avini? Have them help you share. Okay. I am the biggest proponent. of using another person's voice and confidence. I love personally three ways. I love um, being that voice for someone else. And Christine, can you help narrow this down? There are tools, and forgive me, I never want to take away from Avini printed materials, but I'm the last person that's going to use Avini printed materials. I'm going to use the power of rapport and connection and other people. I'm going to bring in other individuals with the strength and conviction of belief in their voice, right? My story of, and I will tell you, I wanted to finish saying, when I said I was tested before Avini and I was tested 14 months after using Cell Defender and all of our products in Avini. So I can tell you that I have a very, very dear friend who retested me and she said, sweetheart, Avini saved your life. There's no other way to say it. It saved your life. You avoided a collision course with a brick wall because those substances, and I didn't even tell you that for 10 years in my office in California, I had black mold. So I was fighting both a combination of black mold accumulation in the lungs and heavy metal toxification, you know, those things that we really don't want an accumulation of that will stunt the body's behavior. So Avini was what I used to help my body rid itself of those things. And I don't know if you can tell, but I can put a sentence together without stuttering. So, and so that enthusiasm I want to convey to people who want on my team or anybody's team. I want to be that person to help relay information and listen to the needs of the person that asked this question. Before you rush in with wanting to provide information, be the person who really cares enough to really pull out what that person needs. Okay? They are in need. You want to be that reassuring person, bring up your courage, bring up the courage to bring on a person who can speak for you. Then once you've got their attention, then provide them Rick's 3-minute video, Rick's 5-minute video, put Chip on the line, for heaven's sakes, put Marcy on the line, put Dave Johnson on the line, put Christine on the line. You know, Hannah has a wonderful story, right? I'm Pat and Dave Sitko have wonderful stories. We can all help one another with our own testimonies. Bring in the relationship to support. Yeah, and we've got white papers. If we want them, we've got white papers to prove what we're saying, right? We can always provide those. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for answering that. She just texted me and said, thank you very much. All right, it's question time. Does anyone want to ask Tony Marie a question? Do you want to raise your hand and Carol
Oh,
will unmute you, or you can mute your testimony that you want to share? Anybody? This is not a shy group, I know that.
Tony, can you mention about your dad?
Oh, sure. Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, my dad, thank you, Hannah. Thank you. My father is still with us. He's 92 years old. And I actually moved from California to Colorado to help take care of him as he knew his health was declining. He is a Korean veteran as well as a Vietnam veteran, and then worked for the state of Colorado and was exposed to exhaust fumes, jet fuels, asbestos, you name it, that man was always Agent Orange, exposed. And so with that, I was watching the decline of my father's mental process, right? Slowly lost him, slowly was losing his personality. And he used to be bigger than life. And what was so beautiful is to just 3 times administer Cell Defender to my father, to just kind of say, Dad, open your mouth and put the drops in his mouth That was a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Friday. Just 5 drops, just a good solid squirt in each day, and just 3 applications. On Sunday, to walk into his hospital room with his hands behind his head and his feet up. And I said, Dad, what are you doing? And he said, I'm watching the Bronco game and I'm looking at my toes that Dr. Coda cut off. And I said, Dad, how did you remember Dr. Coda's name? Your surgeon that cut your toes off. I don't even remember that. That happened 3 years ago. And he said, Tony, he cut my toes off. I would remember his name. What was so incredible about that was his memory demonstrated being restored. His sense of humor was there. And with repeated application, it seems like I have now a part of my father that I had lost. So his personality has been more than it was when it was in steady decline. So he is conversational and he does have a memory and he's selective about what he wants to remember. So he's very fun. And he is the favorite of his nursing facility. He's the favorite. They always tell me your dad is a love. So
Wow, powerful story. That's a beautiful thing.
you.
Good thing that you
Thank
did
you.
that with your dad, right? Because
Yes.
if you didn't take that step, good
And
for you.
it's been now 14, 15 months with Avini. And I just have to tell you, there's been so many incredible stories, so many, just testimonials. And I'm honored to be able to listen and to create those testimonials on Monday mornings on the Rev calls, to hear people share their experiences with Avini products. It's a blessing. At first I was thinking, gosh darn it, I don't want to do the testimonial calls. Now I think I'm honored the most to be able to share those. I think it's, yeah, we love Chip. We love Chip.
You do. Yeah, and
I'm
thank
just
you.
taking a
Thank you.
second and
Go ahead, Chip.
looking through the group here, and I'm thinking, well, I know that person really well. Well, I know that person really well. Well, we've done some interesting stuff together, and pretty much every face, or a lot of you, but it's the nature of what we do. We really do things of great importance that are of value to us and the people we reach out to, and it requires us to form a relationship and trust each other. And just looking through the group, I'm it's just like proof of concept to me, because I'm looking at every face. I say, oh, well, I can remember something really special with that person, right on down through the lines. So Avini is a great place to come be a human.
Be a better human,
There you go.
an improved
What
human.
do you
A
say?
healthy human.
The
There you go.
youngest version of yourself, Chip? You say that always. A better version.
I may not be the youngest person on the call, but no, I'm just kidding about that. But it is amazing, look at how many of us have decided to do an encore career because of the Lions. It feels like you get to be who you really are, and I think that's part of what Tony was saying. You get to be who you really are, and it feels great to work this way.
Well, thank you, Chip, and thank you, Tony. Tony, we're going to let our guests, one last question. Does anyone have a question for Tony before we let her says? Last call. Here you go. Last call. But Tony, what would your parting words like to be to us? We really appreciate you. The Rev call, I had that in my notes. That's a great call. That morning call that you do on Monday mornings. That is an amazing call. So if you haven't tuned into her call and they are recorded, please listen, because like she said, testimonials are very powerful. So Tony, please, some parting words, and we're grateful you were here.
Be the voice that will change someone else's life. Avini Health is really the place where, if you're new or a seasoned networker, you come to retire, because we have We get paid not only in Goosebumps, but Neil Roth has created something that rewards us very generously. But more than anything, we are changing lives, saving lives. It matters. It really matters. And if you have any doubt, if you care to hear more, there are, I just can't say enough. And it all comes from your courage to speak up. Don't be afraid. Feel the joy and the love in your heart and share. Share with somebody. It will matter. It will matter.
Bravo. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for being our guest. And thank you, everyone, for being with us this evening at Avini Vibes. Chip, Carol. Oh, we have one more question. Gary, go ahead. We got a couple more minutes if we need to. Go ahead, Gary.
Christine, I have a question of you, and that is, do you have any update on the SEAL team? I asked it the other night, and I still don't have a clear sense.
Oh, yes, I spoke with Kyle today, and they're getting through the applications, and probably he said within the next week to 2 weeks, actually within the next week, they're going to start the interview process. So within the next 7 days, you'll get a phone call and you'll go through that process. So yes, it's interesting that I did have that conversation with him today for the
Great, thank you.
Tony,
so thank you for reminding me for the interview.
Yes.
Tony,
And thanks, thanks, Tony.
Welcome. You're welcome, Gary.
I always have to ask, and especially you, because you have been working with different modalities of healing, with the natural modalities.
Yeah.
And any parting words for the practitioners that we're wanting to talk with, the Reiki, the EMF, just the different ones, for them to really understand how powerful, yes, sound healing, everything, that we complement what they're doing.
Right, absolutely. No, it's part of how I am offering assistance to people who want to approach alternative practitioners. Definitely convey to them that Avini works in alliance. It works alongside. It enhances what they're doing. It makes them a hero. Whatever modality they are doing, it will be improved because Avini is clearing out the blockages, those impediments that stand in the way for the body to be its utmost and ultimate expression of a human being, as Chip would so perfectly say. And when we do share with massage therapists, frequency individuals, acupuncturists, colon hydrotherapists, it makes no difference. Even psychologists, right? If we can clear things out of the mind, if we can clear things out of the body, do we have even 2 minutes to express something that I share? Please?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is something that I tell people. I want you to imagine a sliver in your thumb. Imagine a metal sliver in your thumb. And you cannot get it out. You've got a sliver in your thumb. Try though you may, you cannot get it out. You cannot eat a salad green enough to get that sliver out. You cannot put essential oils to get that sliver out. You cannot meditate to get that sliver out, unless we're talking about a much, much higher power, right? But let's just imagine. And what happens is you can't use your thumb because it will hurt. There's going to be, the thumb is going to fill with fluid because it's probably getting infected. That sliver must come out. In the same way, when we're talking about heavy metals free flowing throughout our body, just imagine your body is filled and riddled with multiple millions and millions of slivers throughout your body, embedded throughout. Cell Defender is going through and actually physically taking those slivers of block out of the body. We can now have a perfectly functioning thumb so that it will heal itself. We did nothing but remove that. We do nothing but remove those millions and millions of slivers so that we can function at our ultimate. And that is just a visual mental picture I try to impress upon someone that wants to understand what really are we doing here. And that is my best way to say that. So we
That's
are
neat.
delighted.
That's really neat. I haven't heard you
Good.
do that before. That, I mean, I think everybody can kind of get that, and if they just, you know, micronize it a bit more, and you got, that was pretty cool. Is that new, or have you been using that
No,
a
I've
while? Is
used
that,
that
that your
since the
secret
beginning.
weapon?
No, that was something that just occurred to me. And I thought, you know, if we can somehow get people to visualize that we're removing this thing that is creating an interference with function. And we've all had a sliver in our thumb we couldn't get rid of, right? So now, if that small one sliver is blocking a thumb function, imagine what millions of slivers are doing throughout the body. And we're taking them out with Cell Defender.
So if I can take just a second and let you guys feel the importance of what you just heard. You know,
Please.
typically, if you're somebody who can really run with this, you'll have a couple of silver bullets, and maybe you don't reveal those very often. Maybe that's the reason that you can run as fast as you do. You know, you share a lot, but for her, I mean, she just shared a silver bullet. That's going to work so well in so many conversations. And, you know, I'm watching how fast she's moving, and I'm, you know, trying to study and figure out why. One of the best answers I've seen is that little deal right there, because I think everybody can understand that. That brings it right down to, you know, everybody can understand it level, say exact same thing, just littler. And we got the solution for it.
Thank you. Thank you. And can I just bring, and I want to drive this point home. Guys, when you have people that bring to you, you know, that they're using this oil or that vitamin or this procedure or that, you know, CBD or whatever, those are all wonderful. But my favorite thing to say is you can have the best CBD oil in the world, but it's not going to get that sliver out, right? It's got to come out. And once you pull it out, then enjoy your CBD or whatever. And again, nothing wrong with those substances. Those are great substances, but they need to be not interfered with the wall of toxic substances in the
I'm
way.
telling you guys, that's awesome. If I was going to go set up a booth tomorrow, I'd have a big poster of a sliver and a thumb, and that's where I'd start every conversation. I'm serious. It's that
That's a
good.
great
I really
point.
think it's
Listen,
that good.
I have a real experience with the sliver in my finger, but was it this finger? It was this one. And I had a little piece of metal worked with the horses in the barn, and I got a sliver in there, and my body tried to push it out, and I grew, honestly, another finger. I grew
Wow.
another, like a ball on the end of my finger. And it was so irritating, like you said, it would irritate me, this finger with this hand. I'd always have to watch it. I mean, this went on. I literally had to go and have it surgically back then. But that is a great analogy. So
Well,
let's
and
all go
so
out and do
you've
good
got,
work.
everybody's got a story like that. Everybody can go back in time and get a sliver, right? And bring it to life. I mean, it's so good. It's so good. Christine, just real quick, I just left a call. I was late getting here because I was talking to a bunch of people that have mayors that they're trying to get pregnant, and they were having a terrible time. And this was the follow-up call. And you know, they didn't even talk about the horse. They said the horse news is good. You know, the mayors are doing great, but the husband, who is a chiropractor, all of a sudden wanted to talk to me about his patients, and it had always
Oh,
been the
how
wife before.
exciting.
So I said, I got to go. I got to go talk to a girl in New York that's appraising horses. So,
So Tony,
listen,
I just like to take that down to that sliver. So that would be the HVAC guy, that would be the roofer, all the construction companies, plumbers. So when we're talking with the health practitioners, who are your clients? Why are they in there? And
got slivers. They got slivers, don't they?
slivers, they've
got
got
slivers.
those slivers. I mean, it just opens up, what you opened up is a huge Pandora's box for us all to look into.
It's awesome. I really think
To
it's
go
awesome.
to go
now I know why
deeper.
she runs so fast.
Yeah. All right, everyone. We're gonna say goodnight and God bless each and every one of you. I think we might title tonight Slivers. How's that?
There you go.
All of
I
us,
like it.
let's go out and help everyone get the slivers. Tony,
She
thank
scores.
you for being with us. Great
Thank
presentation.
you all. Thank you so much. It's an honor to meet all of you and see you. And thank you so much. Mwah.
All
Go
right,
be
we'll
a
see
good-
you all next week.
Bye,
Hopefully we'll see you
Avini.
Avini
Bye,
Vibes.
Avini.
Go out
See you
and
soon,
share. Good night now.
Night.
Bye.